Bonjour, mesdames, messieurs, Dajia and welcome to Frenchy Teaches Cocktails. This is episode 3, and today we are going to introduce a fantastic drink, the Negroni. It is one of the few Italian cocktails, and it is probably bartender's favorite cocktail. Let's get into it. The Negroni has a fantastic history. It's one of those very old classics. Its origin can be traced back to the second half of the 19th century. We are in 1860 Italy, and there is that beautiful drink called a Milano Torino. Milan because Campari was manufactured and produced in Milan, and Torino because vermouth, Italian sweet vermouth, was originally from Turin. So the Milano Torino is actually just a one-to-one Campari, so that bitter Italian Amaro, to vermouth. Then you have World War I, and Italy is full of young American soldiers. They take a liking to the Milano Torino. However, they find it a little bit heavy, a little bit syrupy. So they take the habit of adding a little bit of soda water to it. And to this day, the drink is called an Americano. It's a beautiful classic, a bit along those spritz, those lower ABV, very refreshing drinks. 1 part Campari, 1 part sweet vermouth, and 1 part soda water. However, we get to 1919, and the story goes, this, once again, accuracy is debatable. But in 1919, there is Count Camillo Negroni, who walks into a cafe, Caffè Casoni in Florence. And he's about to order his favorite drink, the Americano. However, he's looking for something a bit stiffer. So the bartender goes, remove the soda water and replace it with gin. And here we go. 1 part gin, 1 part sweet vermouth, 1 part Campari. The Negroni is born, and it will become many people's favorite drink. There is something addictive about that bitter-sweet death of a Negroni. A Negroni is made with gin. I would traditionally use a London dry gin, but here I'm going to be using Lubusky. It's a Polish juniper-heavy gin that's going to do wonder in my Negroni. Then we have sweet vermouth, the same one as our Manhattan, Vermouth di Torino. Usually that red sweet vermouth is Italian, whereas the dry vermouth has more of a French origin. All vermouths are made with white wine. They are fortified and then infused with botanicals. In the case of sweet vermouth, it is just caramel added that provide that rich color. And as well, little tip, please keep your vermouth in the fridge when the bottle is open. Fortified wine are prone to oxidation, and they will develop enough flavor over time if not properly refrigerated. Even in the fridge, the shelf life is about a month. And finally, we have Campari. Campari is the most well-known Italian Amaro, and nothing comes quite close to it. There is Aperol that I call Campari for teenager because it is much sweeter. But Campari is fantastic. It is made with Chinotto, which is a bitter citrus, very classic in Italian Amaros, and Cascarilla, which is a Caribbean shrub whose bark is used as a tonic. Little fun fact, the color used to come from carmine dye, which is actually little crushed up insect, cochineal, crushed up into a powder and used as food coloring. Campari, the brand, discontinued the practice in 2006, and that beautiful, iconic, bright, intense red is nowadays food coloring. Alright, so the traditional recipe of a Negroni calls for 1-1-1. However, this is, according to me, and I'm not the only one, a bit heavy, a bit too more on the liqueur, on the Amaro and the vermouth. So a lot of modern recipe will call for an actual 2 to 1 to 1, which will translate to 1.5 ounces of gin, 1.5 ounces or 45 ml of gin, then 3/4 of sweet vermouth, 22.5 ml. Lastly, our delicious Campari, and here as well we're gonna go for 3/4 of an ounce or 22.5 ml. So 1.5, 3/4, 3/4. I could have built the drink right into the glass. The drink is served on ice, so it would not have been a problem. However, a Negroni, because of the bitterness, can take a lot of dilution. So it's okay, I'm gonna first chill it and dilute it into my rye and then pour it over a nice brick of ice. As always, be generous with your ice. Always put a little bit more than you feel is enough. Applause. So here I'm not looking for a specific dilution. I just want to make sure my Negroni is chill and ready to drink from the first sip for whoever me is gonna drink it. So give it a good stir. Do take the habit of tasting it. It will never hurt if you know the taste of your cocktail. And we're gonna pour it over that lovely ice cube. Hopla. Lastly, like our other stirred cocktail, we're gonna finish with a nice orange oil on the nose. Rub the oil, express them over the glass. Here, I actually bought a new peeler. It makes perfect orange peel cut that have absolutely no white on it. So here, I'm just gonna go ahead and put it inside my drink. A Negroni has already a bitter orange flavor. It is absolutely not gonna ruin the drink. So, as always, we start with the aroma, the orange oil on the nose. After that, it is the botanicals of the gin, but it's very short-lived. The sweetness of the vermouth follows with its own botanicals, and immediately after that, you have the bitterness of the Campari. And that bitterness is very long-lasting. It stays in your mouth and makes you salivate. And it is because it triggers salivation that Amaros are overall great aperitif and digestive. And that bitter sweet flavor is almost candy-like. It has that addictive nature, that taste of come again. It's very long-lasting. Before, I made the analogy between making cocktails and cooking a nice steak. An old-fashioned was just about seasoning, like cooking the steaks to perfection and seasoning it with salt and pepper. A Manhattan was that same steak, but we would just pair it and complement it with a nice sauce, with a nice jus. So our bourbon with sweet vermouth. But think of a Negroni more as a stew, where you still have that beef flavor. It is part of the stew, but it's not the main focus anymore. It is all that condiments and that cooking process that matters. A Negroni is the same. The spirit doesn't matter as much anymore. It is that bitter-sweet play between the vermouth and the Campari that gives most of the flavor of a Negroni. Yes, I still have the botanicals of the gin, and if I were to switch it to bourbon, for example, and make a Boulevardier, I would have more body from the bourbon. but it is definitely not the focus of the drink. It is that addictive bitterness that makes the drink. So a Negroni is a whole category of drink, and that category is defined by that bitter-sweet balance. It is, once again, still composed of spirit, water, sugar, and bitter. But this time, that bitterness is taking the front. It is the star of the show. It is not just seasoning anymore. It is almost the main focus of the drink, that long-lasting bitterness. Hey guys, that was episode 3 of Frenchy Teaches Cocktails. First episode, we went over an old fashioned, which focuses on the spirit. Then we moved on to a Manhattan. A Manhattan introduced that sweet layer, that complexity into sweetness. Then, finally, we went into a Negroni that introduces bitterness. So we went spirit, sweet, and bitter. And those three are the basic layers of stirred cocktail. However, next episode, we're gonna go over shaken cocktails. Shaken cocktails introduces a new element to cocktail making, which is some kind of citrus juice, and sourness will be the next layer. So don't miss out, hit the subscribe button so you get a chance to see my next video, and maybe my cats. Bye bye, 再见, au revoir, see you next time guys, and santé.